lesson 5, which also happens to be dun, 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 the last lesson that I will be presenting to you on our classroom debate. This is a very important lesson because in this lesson, I'm going to go on how to actually present the facts that you researched so hard. Because let's be honest here, you just can't come to your debate and read off a piece of paper word for word exactly what you wrote down when you did your research. Because if you do that, you're not going to win the debate. What you'll do is you'll win putting the audience to sleep first competition, which is not what you want. So, when you are giving your case, there are 2 things you want to keep in mind. The first is called logical fallacies. The second group of items you want to keep in mind are what are referred to as ethos, pathos, and logos. It sounds like the names from like the Three Musketeers. But these aren't Three Musketeers you want to deal with. Let's first talk off about logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are errors in reasoning that invalidate an argument. I'd like you to read that one more time, but this time I want you guys in your group of 3 or 2, or even 4 if you have that many, I want you to read it out loud. And I should be able to hear you in class right now. So read it out loud, please. I'm not kidding, read it out loud. Did you read it out loud? I hope you did. Now, another way to say this statement is that logical fallacies are errors in someone's reasoning that make their argument wrong. What I'm about to go over are 10 logical fallacy examples. You want to make sure that when you're putting your debate together, when you're putting your facts together, that you don't fall into one of these logical fallacy traps. And then, while you're listening to your opponent's case, you want to make sure that you catch them in one of these logical fallacy traps so that you can point it out to the judge and the audience during your rebuttal time. Now, since there are going to be 10 logical fallacy examples, I wouldn't memorize all 10. That's way too much. What I would do is I'd listen through my examples, and after you listen to them, go back through and choose 2 or choose 3 logical fallacies that you want to focus on to make sure that your group doesn't fall into it, and to see if you can catch the other people fall into it. Now, just as an FYI, there are a lot of examples of logical fallacies out there. These are just 10. The first one's called ad hominem. And this is a fallacy when you attack a speaker's character. For example, Mr. Mint might say, "You can't listen to Mr. V. He's a Canadian." And we all know what Canadians are like. "Wow, Mr. Mint, I thought we were friends." That hurt. So you want to make sure that when you're giving your case that you don't attack your opponent personally. You're attacking their facts or case, not the actual person. The next fallacy is called a false cause. Now this is citing a false event or a false beginning of event to explain some kind of situation. For example, you could have someone say, "Increase in global warming is due to more teenagers using them cell phones." Now this is a false cause because using cell phones is definitely not increasing global warming. It's just a coincidence that as teenagers are using more cell phones, maybe global warming is increasing as well. But that's what a false cause is. You're connecting 2 events. The next is the either-or fallacy. Now this happens when you're discussing an issue as if there's only one solution to a problem, and only one. So continue on with our cell phone example. Someone could say, "Well, we can either ban cell phone use or the world will end." So once again, you can see hopefully the fallacy or the error in judgment, the error in the reasoning. It makes no sense that if we don't ban cell phones, the world's going to end. But that's what an either-or fallacy is. They only see one conclusion or one solution to something. The next fallacy is called the false analogy fallacy. That's kind of fun to say. False analogy fallacy. False analogy fallacy. False analogy. Oh, I'll stop. Sorry. This is where you compare two items that are not very similar. It's like a simile, but a simile that you shouldn't use. So, continuing on with my cell phone, someone might say, using cell phones is like setting off nukes. Again, hopefully you can see the error in the reasoning of a person like this. Cell phones, nuclear bombs, not a good example. Then we have the slippery slope fallacy. This is saying that one small negative action will cause a big, terrible result. So you might have someone say, if one more person uses their cell phone, the world will end. So I hope you see the fallacy in that as well. Again, another error in judgment is thinking that something small is going to create something huge. Make a mountain out of a molehill. That's what a slippery slope is. Next one's called two wrongs fallacy. This is defending something wrong by citing another wrongdoing. You might have someone say that we don't need to regulate the sales of dangerous chemicals because other countries don't either. So we should do something bad because other people are doing something bad too. So if you think about slavery, and that's coming up to my mind, back in the 1800s, everyone else is doing slavery, we should do slavery. Now we have the straw man example. Straw man fallacy. This is an argument where an opponent's position is shown to be more extreme than what it actually is. And this is a fallacy that you might see maybe more in a rebuttal situation, or if your opponent starts talking about your side of the debate. So this is one that you might want to clue in on and make sure you don't do it to your opponent. So Mr. Mint, he might think that his friends should not be so rude to the new Mint. Mr. Egypt Pen Mint. However, Mr. King Mint, who right now is not available, he says that Mr. Mint is choosing to be better friends with the new Mint than the mints that have always known Mr. Mint. Again, that's a straw man. You're making something seem worse than it actually is. Number 8 is called the bandwagon fallacy. And this one is that just because a large amount of people believe something is true doesn't automatically make it true. So, for example, you could have an individual say that since most people believe that fidget spinners are the best toys ever, that I should then open a store and sell them because they're the best toys ever. Because that's what everyone is saying. The 9th one we have is called the hasty generalization fallacy. And this occurs when someone draws a conclusion based on inadequate or insufficient evidence or facts. So this is when someone believes something even though they don't have enough facts to truly believe it. So continue on my fidget spinner example. You could have a student say, someone named Miles or Michael, maybe another guy named Cody or Caleb even, or even a guy named Jake, may say that Walmart says that fidget spinners are their best-selling toy. So that means that fidget spinners are the most favorite toy in North America because Walmart said so. One store out of lots of stores. The 10th one that we're going to talk about is called...
Ethan, please come to the office. Ethan Perkins.
The voice in the sky is calling for Ethan Perkins. I'm glad they didn't call my name. That's scary. How does the voice know our names? The slothful fallacy occurs when someone is given lots of strong information to support some truth, but they still don't believe the truth. So, for example, our previous guys we talked about are fictional, Miles, Michael, Cody, Jake. They may learn that 7 of the top 10 toy companies in the world have proof that teddy bears are the most purchased toy. And yet, they still think that fidget spinners are the most popular. That's called the slothful fallacy. All right, so this video has been going on for about 10 minutes. I'd like you to pause the video for a little bit. And what I want you to do is I want you to choose, wait for it, wait, it's not working. There we go. Still not working. There, oh, there you go. I want you to choose not 13. I want you to choose 3 of these fallacies that you're going to focus on not doing. Okay? So choose 3 fallacies that you're going to make sure you don't do, and maybe 3, and make sure those 3 you choose are also 3 that you're going to hope that the other side does, so that you can nail them and prove them wrong. Pause the video, do that, then come talk to Mr. Volkman about it. Last part of this lesson. We're going to go over types of persuasion. Now, these next few slides are going to be more about how do you actually present your case so that it's a very persuasive case. And I don't got a lot of time left, so I'm going to go through this kind of quick. The first one's called ethos. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Ethos means to convince an audience of an author's character or credibility, or how much you can trust them. Because you want your judge to think that you're the most trustworthy of the 2 people in the debate. An author uses this to show your audience that you're worth listening to. You can do ethos by choosing language that's appropriate to the audience and topic. You want to make sure you sound fair and unbiased. You don't want to sound like a crazy kook who, you're flying off the handle. You want to introduce your expertise by, you can state, I have researched this, or I've looked at 20 different sources and I've come to this conclusion. So you're trying to convince people that you're that you're a trustworthy source. The next one's called pathos. This is to persuade an audience by appealing to their emotions. You want to make an audience feel something specific. It could be sympathy, pity, or inspire anger from your audience and judges. Now you do this by choosing your language very carefully. Choosing language that gives or makes people feel certain emotions. You want to think about how you're saying your words. Are you talking very quickly, slowly, quietly, loudly, excitedly? You want to give stories or examples that can give different emotions. So that's pathos. And the last one's logos. This means to convince an audience by using logic or reason. You do that by citing facts, statistics, give historical analogies or historical stories, cite certain authorities or experts in your field. So these are different ways that you can use persuasion to convince your audience that yours is the best argument. And I encourage you to use at least 1 or 2 of those as you're creating and writing your script of what you want to say. Now here is another graphic on logos, ethos, and pathos, showing you what you can use, whether it's numbers, statistics, research for logos. Ethos, again, remember, is showing that you're a credible source. So that can be personal anecdotes. Why me? Why should you listen to me? Well, because, delivery. How should you actually act? Making sure making eye contact. Your body language is very important. Pathos, which is using emotion. Telling stories, positive, negative emotions. You want to try to give all of those. And again, your delivery has to focus on how are you acting? How are you talking? If you want someone to feel happy, make sure you're talking happy. All right, so I got 40 seconds left, and then I'm going to time out. This was a long video. Hopefully you took the break I asked you to take. Hey, well done. Continue on with the quest. This was the last flip video for the debate unit. Hey, live long and prosper and all that jazz.